Welcome to Unforbidden Truth. I'm Andrew. On this week's episode, I'll be speaking with California serial killer Michael Hughes. Michael Hughes is one of three serial killers given the moniker Southside Slayer. The other two convicted serial killers are Ivan Hill and Chester Turner. I've spent 2 6-hour days in a cage with Turner. Fun little fact, that's when I met Larry Bittaker a month before he passed away, and I also saw David Carpenter wheeling by in his wheelchair. Michael Hughes is convicted of killing 6 women and 1 teenage girl. As of 2008, detectives were investigating Hughes' possible involvement in other killings around the United States, stemming from when he was traveling with the Navy. He spent time in Michigan, San Diego, and even Frostburg, Maryland. Michael Hughes' MO was sexual assault and strangulation. At the time of the murders, he was a former security guard. There were 2 separate trials in which he was convicted. During his first trial in 1993, he was found guilty of the murders of Teresa Ballard, Brenda Bradley, Terry Miles, and Jamie Harrington, and he received a life sentence for these 4 murders. 15 years after he was convicted, Michael Hughes was charged with the sexual assaults and murders of 4 women after homicide detectives linked him to DNA samples taken from victims using new forensic technologies. At the second trial, Michael Hughes was ultimately found guilty and he was sentenced to death. He's currently awaiting execution at San Quentin's death row in San Quentin State Prison. Here's my interview with Southside serial killer Michael Hughes.
You have a prepaid call from
Michael Hughes.
an inmate at the California State Prison, San Quentin, California.
So tell me about your childhood. What was it like growing up?
Okay, I'm from Michigan. Okay, as a kid, like about 5, I was, my mother and father divorced, and my mother, I guess she had met my stepfather, and she decided to move in California where his people were at. And so she put me and my sister and her on a train, and we had a 3-day trip here to California. And we lived in, like, Pasadena, Los Angeles, and eventually moved to Inglewood, California, where I went to high school.
Did you ever suffer any type of abuse or trauma growing up as a child?
Yeah, I guess the raising of the children in California and dealing with the in-laws, my mother was, and I don't know if it's because I look like my father, but she was really rough on me. She used to, for the least little thing or anything, she used to beat me quite a bit for years.
Was that the extent of the abuse? Were you just physically abused, or was there any type of emotional or?
No sexual abuse. It was just physical and mental.
How often would she abuse you?
Just about every day. It was always something. As I'm grown now, I realize it must have been like a workplace problems or whatever. But anything used to set her off. Any little thing used to set her off. My sister used to be on pins and needles all the time.
So your sister was abused as well then? You weren't the only one?
Yes. But a lot of my abuse came because I used to, me and my sister used to try to protect each other, from it. So we used to both catch it. She used to know that's what we were trying to do. I'm trying to protect my sister and my sister trying to protect me, and we both used to catch it all the time. We lived in a house in Inglewood. I went to high school. We could have been living paycheck to paycheck, but we had a roof over our head and a little food in the house, and we went to school, and I was able to get out of the house when I could, and my sister was indoors, so we wasn't outside or nothing like that. No, we had we were taken care of as far as me having a home. But that could have been one of the problems. I don't know. I'm trying to maintain that. As I got older, I realized, the stress a lot of parents be under, trying to maintain things.
How was it like growing up as a child up until your teenage years? What was life like for you then?
It was rough. It was real rough because we had nobody to turn to for help, and it was I come from a big family. My father and all of his. I come from a big family, so it was kind of rough on us because we used to having uncles and aunts and cousins and my grandmother to go to, And being in California, we didn't have nobody but ourselves, me and my sister. That was it. No aunts, no uncles, no cousins, no nothing. So for years, and that's how it was.
And your father wasn't present in your life?
No, everybody was on the East Coast. We were in California, and we weren't allowed to tell them where we were. So
you didn't have a relationship with your father then? Was he not able to see you guys
No.
or talk to you guys?
No. I didn't see my father. I've seen my father one time, and that was at my trial. That was it. Out of all of them years.
Have you guys just never been close?
Yeah, we were real close coming up, but when we were separated, that was it. That was it. We never seen him. We never had his number. We never was able to contact him or nothing like that.
Was there a reason for that? Did your mom just want to spite him, or was there a reason?
As I'm grown now, I realize through my own life that a lot of times, women just they when they go on in life, they don't want to, spend no time with their exes. You know what I mean? They distance them from their children as a way to hurt them. So we just, they just, I don't know why they do what they do, but they just separate them from the loved ones, the fathers, and the family, so they can do what they, handle them the way they want to. Because I originally was raised by my grandmother, but being in California, she had full control.
Do you think if your father was present, or do you think if your parents would have never split up, do you think your life would have turned out different?
Definitely, because he was a kind man. That stuff would have never happened with us at all. My stepfather at one time he tried to intervene, but she bullied him, so it didn't work. He ended up leaving too. So if family would have been there, wouldn't have happened like that at all. I had to learn everything myself as far as communication, and we never had men present in the house, so I never was able to learn, the interactions between males and females, because it was just me, her, and my sister all the time. It never was nobody in the home. So I had to, when I went out to be a teenager, I had to go outside and I learned myself about life. Then I went to the Navy, and that's how it went for a long time.
How old when you enlisted?
16, I just turned 17 because I had just graduated high school. I made up my mind. I had to leave. I had to get out of there. I told my sister I'll be there for her, but I had to leave. So I went and enlisted. I went and told her, and me being the only male, she at first was not going to, sign for me to go, because at that period of time, but being the only male, if your parent or your mother doesn't sign for you, you can't enlist, and she threatened me with that, and I was serious about leaving, going to the Navy. So I passed the tests and everything, and told her I was on my way to the Philippines in 2 weeks. After I passed the test, I came and told her about everything, and she was kind of shocked. But she took me to AFES to go, and I left. I went to the Philippines to catch up with my ship.
Prior to enlisting in the Navy, can you recall some of your earliest positive and negative childhood memories?
The negative was always the beatings and the verbal abuses. The positives were times that I spent like with my sister. We used to. Some of the good times we had was when we ran away from home and we was by ourselves. We lived in the garage or wherever, and we got the chance to really sit down and talk to each other and be without any kind of verbal or physical abuse. So them were the times I know her. We'll always remember the little times that we had by ourselves. So we was able to get away from all of that stuff. So.
Have you ever been diagnosed with any type of mental illnesses that you know of?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown twice. Yes. So I don't know. It was the stress of everything. I guess it was at the beginning. I went to the hospital twice for nervous breakdown as a kid.
Do you deal with anything right now? Do you take any type of medications to cope with anything?
No. As a matter of fact, I don't. I don't have. When I first got here, I talked to the psychiatrist, and she didn't diagnose me with anything. So I'm not on no psych program. I don't take any kind of mental drugs like that. I haven't never took anything all my life or no psychotics at all.
Speaking a little bit earlier, you did some years in the Navy. What did your duties consist of while you were in the Navy?
Well, at the beginning, I was a shipmate, which is people who learn how to maintain the main decks of the ship, and then I ended up being a gunner's mate, which I was inside operating the 3-inch 50 guns, the big guns. I worked in the armory with kept track of the ammunition in the 3-inch 50. I learned how to take all the weapons apart and put them back together. And then at the end, I ended up being a machinist mate before I discharged.
Where all were you located throughout your career?
I went on a WestPac. I went to the Philippines, Yakuza, Japan, Thailand, Sydney, Australia. I was on my ship was with the fleet that went on the WestPac that went out that way, Thailand, Philippines.
Let's talk about the cases in which you're in prison for right now. You're convicted of 7 rapes and 7 murders, and you've been dubbed the Southside Slayers, sharing the same moniker as 2 other California serial killers, Chester Turner and Ivan Hill. The 7 confirmed murders that you are convicted of happened between 1986 and 1993, and you're originally convicted of the murders of 15-year-old Yvonne Coleman, Verna Patricia Williams, Deborah Jackson, a.k.a. Harriet McKinley, and Teresa Ballard. Can you walk us through the events in chronological order which lead up to the first known murders that you're convicted of, starting with Yvonne?
I can't pinpoint each person that they're saying about, but see, during that period of time, I had been discharged from my job at Hughes Aircraft, so for a long period of time I was homeless, right? And so what I used to do was I met a group. It was a bunch of guys, like 6 or 7 of us, and what we used to do was we used to sell drugs in order to keep our hotels and maintain, and I used to work sometimes in Long Beach, but we used to sell drugs. So I used to be up. My shift was at night, so I used to be up at night selling drugs, and I used to be on the street. So I met a lot of people, and so what the affiliation that I have with a lot of people, with like the courts were saying with people, was that, see, selling drugs, what I used to do was I used to know some. I must have known some of these people, like in certain cities, right? Like in L.A. County and like that. So when they asked me, I would tell them, my interaction with them. Sometimes when you sell them some drugs, we'd have sex sometimes, and I knew them, and they used to come to me a lot because I used to give them what they call like double ups, and I give them twice as much because they used to bring me the money. So that was my connection to me with them.
Did you have a connection with every single victim in every single case in which you're convicted of?
I don't think so. I don't think so. That's the reason why they didn't involve me with. They claim that I'm supposed to have been responsible for a lot of murders, but that's why they didn't put me with no more murders than they did, because I didn't have no connection with them. They couldn't pinpoint no connection with them. You know what I mean? I told them the reason why I knew like women of the street outside, because we used to live outside together. Like they'd be outside selling sex, and I used to be selling drugs, and I used to watch out for them, and they used to. I had a hotel room. I used to let them use it, or I'd give them, drugs that they kind of trusted me. So that's how it happened. So I remember a period of time when things was happening out in the streets, and that's how I ended up moving from Inglewood, LA to Long Beach and things like that, because that was when these guys was killing women outside, and everybody was a suspect to it. And to me, in my group, I never understood why the police didn't interact with people in my group, because they were around me and they knew the same people that I did. And as me sitting up in this jail, I'm remembering they had encounters, problems with them about not paying them their money and things like that. And so I suspected some people in my group. So that's what I never understood. I never understood that. And so by me not having a good attorney to represent me, my attorneys were at each other's throat all the time. I just didn't have no way to defend myself. Even though the first time I had a hung jury, but eventually they convicted me.
So you're originally convicted of, 4 murders, and you're sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. While you're in prison, you're charged with additional sexual assaults and murders.
That's how they charged me, yes, when I was in prison. Yeah, when I was in prison. Matter of fact, I was in Delano, I think. Yeah, and they came in and interviewed me, and I explained to everything I'm talking to you about. I explained to them. And when they left me, I remember them telling the guards there at the prison, they said, "Did you get a confession?" They said, No, we didn't get a confession out of them, because they were on me real tough about me doing murders. In other words, they wasn't listening to nothing I had to say at the end. So I didn't say anything else to them. One of them was, they played the good cop, bad cop on me. And I explained to them everything that I'm telling you, and they switched up on me and wasn't listening to what I had to say. So then I seen them again when it was time for me to go to trial. They asked me, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Yeah, I remember you." And so I ended up going to trial, and got a hung jury the first time, and then they convicted me the second.
These additional murders that you're charged with while you're in prison, homicide detectives links you to these by DNA samples using new forensic technology.
That's what I'm saying. They asked me at the beginning, do you affiliate yourself with people outside, women outside? And I told them, I explained to them, I said, yeah, we had sex sometimes. I sold them drugs, sometimes we did drugs together. And that was a connection. That's how they put stuff with me, because of my affiliates. And I found out later, I have to dig it up and find out the name, but I found out later that one of the ladies that they accused me of used to live next door to my stepfather. She was a good friend of mine. And later on in life, we ended up passing each other and seeing each other and doing drugs together and kicking it. And she got murdered, and they gave me her case. And the people who said that they seen the person with her, they said it wasn't me. But they didn't bring that up in court. But I knew one of the victims. I found out later. I was like, because I kept thinking about it, and I'll dig through my paperwork and find out what the name is. But I knew her and her family. So, like I said, by me being affiliated with people is how they gave me the murders, because I knew them, or I spent time with them, and that's how they gave me the cases. Even though I told them this. I told them, I was outside in the streets, and they said that. They even tried to picture me as a homeless person outside in the streets, and I worked all the time, doing something to make money to support my housing or food and stuff. So, that's how it went. My affiliation with people is how they gave me the cases.
So if you're not responsible for all these rapes and homicides, who's responsible? Do you have an idea? Do you know who might have done it?
Like I said, I suspect some of the guys that I used to be in a group with selling drugs with, because like I said, they had, when you're outside, you hear about things, you talk about things, you know. Some of the women had nicknames that they gave themselves, and I'd hear them like, that bitch didn't pay me my money, and this, that, and the other. And when I came here, on death row, one of the guys that's the other guy that was accused of murders in Los Angeles County, he was here. He just died not too long ago, like a year or two ago, in here. And he was on one of these yards. He was in here. And the guys on my tier used to talk to him. And he related to them that, you know, a lot of the murders that he was accused of, some of them, other guys got the case. And we know that to be a fact in life. You know what I mean? But I never got a chance to get to him, talk to him personally myself. But back then, before laws got as tight as they are right now about cases being trumped up on people, people used to get other people's cases and be charged with other people's crimes all the time. Because, like, when I was in trial, my DA tried to give me another case somewhere. I think it's San Bernardino, and the judge told her, she said that you probably could win this case if I let you do it, but I'm not going to do that, because I know I'll hear about this later on for two reasons. One, there's somebody else in prison for this case right now. You know, and two, it's some kind of courtroom discussion that they had, but they, during that period of time, during them years, they was trying to give me every case they could in Los Angeles County. But they had already had people in prison on cases. And like I said, before he died here, he told some of these guys on my tier that there was somebody else in prison for his murder. I told him about my affiliations, right? But as far as murdering, I've never shot nobody in my life. I've never stabbed nobody in my life. I've never murdered nobody.
So what you're saying is you're not necessarily guilty, but you had sex with the victims, and your DNA was found.
It's a possibility. That's my connections to them. Because I told them this, and this is why they jumped on me so tough. Because I told them about my lifestyle back then, and I told them why, you know, they used to deal with me a lot. I said because they really liked me and trusted me, because I used to give them double extras of the drug, and we used to do it together sometime, and we used to have nice conversations and things like that. And they, I heard rumors, like I said, I don't ever see all the news that you probably see, but I had heard that, yeah, they wanted to give me a whole lot more cases than they gave me. You know what I mean? They come out, well, he's responsible for more murders, but if that was the case, they would have charged me with him. But you know what I mean? It's just that I don't have the money or the counsel to defend me in that manner. Period.
So your affiliation to the murders is just having sex with them. Is that correct?
Yes, and doing drugs together, or that's my take on everything. That was the whole reason why the officers jumped on me so tough, because I had told them about that myself.
Was the sex consensual every time, or did it ever get out of hand? Yeah. Or
no. Like I said, I've never shot, stabbed, killed nobody. So it's always like, okay, in the streets, right, during that period of time, when a lot of women get high and stuff, and then they want some more and they don't have the money, they offer you sex and stuff like that. So that's how that went. You know what I mean? Out there. And that's what was happening.
After being charged while in prison, you were convicted in November 2011 and sentenced to death in June 2012 for the murders of Coleman, Williams, and McKinley. So you've been in prison for 22 years now, and you've been on death row going on 9 years now. What was your first night like being on death row? Did it differ from being on mainline in the prison you were previously incarcerated in, or is death row better?
Hey, prison is prison. It's all hell to me. Death row prison was it's terrible. It's a terrible place to be. But I don't. I spend a lot of time reading and going through all of this stuff, trying to figure out my situation, how I got here, where all this stuff I'm talking to you about now. Because in prison, at least you get to go out on the yard and socialize and be around people and get on the phone when you have to and sit in some grass and stuff like that. Here on death row, there is no grass. There is no visual effect, no windows to look out, to do nothing. You're isolated. So I'm just now starting to go outside on the yard, because I never used to go out there because there's no grass out there. There's no everything's concrete. It's like being to me, it was like a driveway, spending time in a driveway. I'm not going to do that. So I never did that. So I haven't been here. I just spend my time drawing and constructing things and staying to myself and thinking a lot. And every once in a while watch a movie and try to keep up with current events and just try to dwell on how and why I'm here and what could have helped me, you know what I mean, and who didn't help me and things of that nature, you know what I mean, and realizing a lot of the difficulties outside because of my situation and because, how family and friends think sometimes. I haven't heard from no one, period. No families and friends in here at all. So it's just been kind of a real isolation for me.
Being that California has a moratorium on the death penalty, chances are, at the age you're at now, it's more likely for you to pass away of old age than it would be an execution. But have you thought about details surrounding a possible execution, such as a last meal and last words? And if so, have you thought about what either of those might be?
Yes, of course you would, because, I'm on death row. And I researched all of that. And one of the things that really strikes me and bothers me is that on my medical paperwork, what I have accessible, like my cane and all my medication, at the bottom it says catheter, right? And I always look at that and I realize that that's for the lethal injection. That's why that's there. And I always look at that, you know what I mean? And I always think about that. And I go, wow, you know what I mean? And I remember a lot of times executions where guys were on television and they was trying to plead their case like I'm doing with you right now. And once the system has you locked in, it takes an act from God to get you out of here. And like I'm looking at, like Scott Peterson got out, but I think money got him out of here. He got off of death row and he got a life in prison. Now he's going to get a new trial right now. And I'm like, money did that, because we can't do that, and a lot of us in here were supposed to have been able to do that. And like I said, I've seen a lot of guys on the news that was finna get executed, and they tried to plead their case somewhat the same way I'm doing with you right now, and they just didn't have the means accessible to help themselves. So that's the bad part. But yeah, the execution is always there on your mind, always, especially in this place.
How do you deal with it?
Well, how can I explain to you? I've always been a survivor, and mentally, I control my own thoughts and emotions. I don't dwell on other people's misery. I try to figure out a way to help myself best as I can. And the only thing I can do here is I've been misfortunate enough that all my appeals attorneys that I've had, they either got old and about ready to die or they're gone. Like now, I haven't had an attorney for over a year. And before then, I really hadn't had no attorney for years. So I've been sitting in here with no attorney. No way to support myself. Nobody to send me paper and stamps and nothing like that. I've been really messed up in this system. You know what I mean? So all I can do is try to do in here like I did in the world, and that's work. That's my art. I try to sell, but it's been getting stolen a lot through the last couple of years, except for this one good person. He's been sticking with me. So, other than that, it's hard in here, mentally for me, because I'm not going to be a lot of people here prey on each other, and I don't let them prey on me. And, I get frustrated about trying to do my best out there and try to support myself through my art. But for some strange reason, they know that we can't come and sue them or talk to them, so they just take my stuff. They just take my artwork. I haven't been able to support myself like I did in the county or like I did when I first came to prison. You know what I mean?
With the pandemic going on in the world, I know COVID-19 has hit San Quentin like a wildfire. How is it right now?
It's terrible. The pandemic came back here. It's resurfaced its ugly head here. And we've had like 20-some people die on death row from the pandemic so far. And to my knowledge, 28, I think, like that. And staff here is, they're rotating a lot. Some of them get sick. And they brought the pandemic to us here. And people died here, and now it's twice as miserable. You know what I mean? Because you don't know the way that the public doesn't see that. They bring us food on paper trays with no cover on them, coal, and everything like that. That's subjected to the virus. They don't sanitize our showers and things like that. They open up the yard, so people still go into the yard together. You know what I mean? They're not having those 6 feet distances, and then they come back here and use this phone, and it goes up and down the tier. So it's always a fear here, because we know that we don't think we're never going to get rid of it here, because it's passed around all the time. They bring it from streets here, and then we rotate it around in here. And the one time that I had it, I never forget how sick I was and how confused and weak I had got. But I got rid of it real quick. So they don't come around and test me anymore. I guess I'm all right so far.
What was it like when you had it? I know out here on the streets, they have a lot more they can do for you. Do they just quarantine you in your cell and just deal with it?
That's the thing. That's the thing about here in prison. You don't want to get sick in prison because you would die. You know what I mean? They don't have, or they don't spend the time on us to heal you as they do on the street. A lot of these guys who died in here went to the hospital for the COVID, and they just brought them back here. And that's what the last guy, Jeff, before he died, that's what he was hollering about downstairs, that he was screaming about how weak he was and how sick he was. And when he went to the hospital, they was mean mugging him and talking crap to him and brought him back here. And then when they took him out, he never came back. He died. So you don't have adequate hospitalization here unless you die. You know what I mean? Then it's all trumped up. But no, they don't. The staff and everybody's staying away from us in here. They don't help us like we would be in the streets. They don't give us what they have in the streets. They don't even talk about our situations until it's too late. So it's always an extra fear. You know what I mean? You don't want to get sick in prison, especially here on death row, because in order to get help, you have to holler out, and if you're not able to holler out, you'll die in your cell. You know what I mean? That's just how it is here. If you can't holler out, man down here in your cell, you're gonna die in there, because nobody's gonna come and help you. And when they do come and help you, they spend so much time interrogating you to see you know, if you're able to beat them up, that you end up dying right there in the cell, as opposed to getting some help.
That was my interview with Southside serial killer Michael Hughes. Thank you for listening.
Unforbidden.